Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Rest. In this video, I want to talk about the way buffs are coming out in Borderlands. As we all know, we do normally receive buffs every single Thursday now, but they always tend to be kind of iffy. And by iffy, I don't mean bad, but sometimes some of the buffs are just insanely good and some are just lackluster. And I'm not really sure what the thought process is going behind some of the buffs. Now, I just want to make it clear, this is not a video flaming Gearbox whatsoever. I really enjoyed the buffs that they launch and all the updates they keep coming out with, but I simply just hope this can be a constructive criticism style video, and maybe we can see a little bit more towards the buffs for additional weapons in the future. And really quick, if you do enjoy, consider subscribing. I'm on the road to 10,000 subs and I would love to have you on this journey. I truly appreciate it. But starting off, we're just going to simply talk about the most recent buffs, and that is to things like the Becca, the Crossroads, and all the other stuff, TK's Wave, everything including that. I actually made a community post on my YouTube channel asking what everybody's favorite buff was, and to no surprise, 70% out of 2.4 thousand votes was the Becca. Now, we did have a little bit of love for the Lyuda, and that's to be expected. The Lyuda got a pretty nice magazine size buff, so I do understand why people like that. But obviously 70% of the people are really excited for the Becca, and rightfully so. The Becca received a 200% damage buff, which completely changed the way it's going to work. It is now completely in-game viable in a ton of builds, and it's probably one of the better ARs out there. I personally used to love the Becca when the game first came out. It wasn't the greatest, but it is insane now compared to some of the other weapons in its category. Now, if we actually take a look at some of the other buffs we got, and this is where I get into the constructive criticism of the video, is that the fact some of these weapons have been pretty bad for a while and they just receive slight buffs. Now, the clearest example of this is definitely the Max Bane. The Max Bane has been a meme for the entire life of Borderlands 3. It has always been bad. It never has really had a chance to shine, and it receives a 65% damage buff, which isn't like something to be slept on. But compared to the, Becca getting a 200% damage buff, or even looking back at things like the Hellwalker, which was like kind of decent already, but got like around a 300% damage buff, it's just like, why is this only getting a 65% damage buff? Why is this also not getting a 200% damage buff? So the Max Bane can also be on level with other snipers, and even if it got a 200% damage buff, I'm not sure it would be on level with other snipers. It might need a little bit more, but it's just crazy, and I don't really understand. We take a look at something like the Crossroads. The Crossroads, starting off with its 4 pellets in the game when it first launched, really good weapon, one of the best SMGs in the game. As time went on, more SMGs came out, and they are just by far superior than the Crossroad. The Crossroad honestly is laughable compared to some of the SMGs, so they went out and gave it a 50% damage buff. 50% damage buff, again, is a decent amount, but it's nowhere near the 200% damage buff. And it did help out the Crossroads a bit, but it's still not going to outperform or even be on level of things like the Plasma Coil or even the Smog or something like this at this point. Everybody was hoping to get that ×4 pellet back, but we did not receive that. They just kept it at ×3 and gave it that 50% damage buff. So that honestly is a little sad on that part. Then if we go even further and take a look at something like the Hellfire has just been, again, something like the Max Bane, just been pretty awful throughout the lifespan of the game. It has received a couple of buffs actually, which improved it a little bit. It's still not at all comparable to any other SMG in the game, and the damage buff that they gave it this patch was not an actual damage buff to the gun itself. It was for its dot damage, especially at higher end content in this game. Like, doesn't even do an insane amount even on Amara. You can make it work in some builds, but increasing this dot damage is just not worth it compared to just increasing its normal damage. There are guns out there that already have more dot damage than the Hellfire, so again, it's just no point in even really ever using the Hellfire. Now, this isn't specifically just with this patch. This has been happening throughout the whole lifespan of the game. Every now and then they'll release a patch and they'll have one gun or maybe 2 or 3 guns just be insanely strong, and the other guns that are kind of like lackluster just get smaller buffs, and they're still not that good. It seems to be that they want specific guns to be in the current meta and others just to be, maybe leveling guns, which is totally fine. I definitely understand that, but it just is a little disheartening to see, the Becca get a 200% buff, and then, something like the Max Bane gets a 65% buff. It's just crazy to me. Again, like I said in the beginning, this is not me hating on these updates. I love that these updates are actually coming out. I love seeing buffs. I love that we haven't seen nerfs in so long. I see so many people complaining about nerfs, and like all we get is buffs. Now, to be fair, some could argue that the buffs that we are getting aren't even that worth it or noticeable, but at least we are getting buffs, and it's bringing other stuff into the meta. So like I'm saying, I really enjoy that these are coming out. I just wish that some of the other lower tier guns in the game would see a little bit more. So essentially, the TLDR of this video is let's get these other guns, these 200% damage buffs, these 300% damage buffs, and let's not just slightly increase the damage buff of these underperforming guns that no one ever really uses in the first place. Some guns in this game have been buffed multiple times. Hellfire is a very good example, and it's still just not good because every single time they buff it, it's either just the dot damage or just slight increased buffs. It's never a insane damage buff to put it on level with other guns in the game. And that's just what I would like to see more, so we could have other options in-game instead of having to run something like the plasma coil or just obviously any other in-game weapon all the time. But that is just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I would love to know. I imagine a lot of you probably have the same opinion, but there could be some of you that want to see more nerfs. Who knows? Let me know in the comments below because it'll be a very interesting conversation. But that is going to all for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.